Hey there, I'm Lonnie Lopez, and on today's episode of One Time Out Left, we have Coach Valentine Montemayor, who coached for 32 years with coaching stops at Olivera Perkins Middle School, Olivera High School, and Lopez High School, which are with the Brownsville Independent School District. As of 2011, he has been retired. I appreciate you, Coach Montemayor, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, growing up, so Brownsville seems like where you were born and raised, correct?
Correct.
And you went through you graduated in 1974 from Brownsville High School. But
Brownsville High School.
talk about the elementaries and.
Oh yeah, I went to it was called Ebony Heights Elementary, which is now Martin Elementary.
Okay.
You know, it's still in existence. As a matter of fact, my grandkids go to that school.
Really?
They went through that whole time, and I tell them stories about when I went to school there. You know, we didn't have all busing and all that. We had to walk home, and especially about Ebony Heights, it was a pretty much part of town that was new in Brownsville, and new housing, new developments, and they had a rule there about speaking English only.
Really?
No Spanish, and that was good for me because our family, we grew up with English. We didn't have Spanish speaking around the house, you know. And my parents were, you know, pretty much educated, and they stressed English, and we grew up with English, so we didn't have a problem with that. But then middle school came around, and I went to Cummings Intermediate, which was a more centralized location, and that was a total shock because now, you know, it was all Spanish.
Really?
You know, it was I had to walk through the projects to get there, and all of a sudden, everybody around me was speaking Spanish, and they were looking at me like, "What's wrong? You don't know Spanish?" You know, and in other words, you know, in Spanish. And the good thing about that, I hooked up with some friends that were athletes, and they accepted me as I was. I developed a little bit of Spanish, just enough to survive, and got through. But that was a real exchange there, you know, going from a school where no Spanish was allowed to a school where primarily Spanish was spoken. Spent some time there. Then in Brownsville High School, that was a total experience too. I was the last graduating class there in '74. We were so big that we had to have what we call a split session. You know, by junior and senior year, juniors and seniors went to class from 7:30 to 12:30 p.m.
Okay.
5 straight hours, no lunch in between, no breaks. You know, get all your classes done there. Sophomores and freshmen had to come in at 1 to 6 p.m. because we had over 4,000 students. You know, Brownsville High School at that time was the only school in
That's
town.
the one on Palm Boulevard.
Yeah,
Is that?
it's Hannah. No,
Oh, it's Hannah.
It was
It's
Hannah.
Hannah.
Yeah, we'd already moved to the new building,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but it was Brownsville High School. You know,
Before it became Hannah.
yeah,
Okay.
all my 4 years there, we were there. Beautiful building and stuff, but we just got so big that they had to split schedule.
Really?
So you can imagine the problems that coaches had scheduling practices,
Yes.
kids coming back. I remember we'd have to wait all afternoon, you know, after 12:30, 1 o'clock, eat
practice.
lunch, wait till 4 or 5 to have practice, you know, sometimes 6. But that was a unique situation, and Brownsville High School was good for us. It was the last graduating class. The next year they opened up Porter.
Okay.
They went back to
there,
a
so there was
regular
two high
schedule.
schools.
Right.
Two high schools. Okay.
And then eventually Pace. So
Okay.
they spread out the kids, but it was unique, you know, a
Wow.
unique schedule. Yeah.
And going in high school, what sport did you play?
I played football. Well, starting, you know, freshman year, it was football, basketball, and baseball. You know, coming up, going back to Cummings, you know, I played football only, and I wasn't into basketball. But during PE, I was shooting some balls, you know, and the coach said, "Hey, you're in the basketball team now." So wait, I don't want to play basketball. Yes, you're on the team. It's Coach Cadell, really good guy. You know, he's the one that really inspired me to continue the coaching. So I joined basketball, and then after that, it was track. You know, got to high school. Coach Cadell moved up from 8th grade to freshman. So he was a coach again.
Oh, okay. So
Football, basketball, baseball, and track off season. You know, that was part of football off season. Varsity, Joe Rodriguez was our coach.
oh,
Remember
okay.
Joe Rod?
Yes.
Tom Chavez, first year defensive coordinator, you know. we were the only school in town. So you're talking about competition to play in the teams. I mean, it was pretty hectic.
Because you had a lot of kids, a lot of
Yes.
students out
Oh
there.
yeah. It was just you know, good teams, good players. I can remember one story about baseball. You know, Tony V is a good friend of mine. He's a little younger than me, and he said he went out for baseball, wanted to play shortstop, but he saw me. I was a starting shortstop, and there were 10 guys behind me. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to play short." He went for catcher, tried out for catcher, and as a freshman, he ended up starting at catcher.
Really?
Determined, yeah. Tony V asked him one day when you see him, remember that day? He'll tell you that. He always reminds me of that story. He said, "Yeah, I went to try out for shortstop, and I saw 10 guys behind coach, over there." So, no, he would change positions.
Wow.
But anyways, big school, you know, well worth it.
That would have been tough, especially for, I mean,
Yeah.
I think some schools now would want that in the Valley, a 4,000 school, because
Oh,
they would
yeah,
pick
yeah.
so
Well,
many.
you know, you still got those big schools up north.
Oh yeah, like Allen, I think they're in the 5,000s
Oh,
and
my
stuff
God,
like
yeah.
that. So, and they don't even have that split schedule. They have everybody at one.
At one time, I'm sure the campus is huge.
So in high school, so you did you said basketball wasn't your sport? So did you at one point during high school stop playing basketball?
Well, yeah, we had to. You know, there was a situation at Brownsville High School that if you played football, you had to go into off season, and then something else. You couldn't go with the basketball.
Okay, because the season was right after.
Right, and that was a rule that that I thought twice about, and I played freshman in JV, but then when it's varsity time, you had to go off-season football.
Okay.
And Joe Rodriguez is a stickler about that. Tom Chavez, and the crew, and we didn't have a choice, and we lost some kids. Believe me, we lost some athletes that went strictly basketball after that. I'm not going to mention names, but there's a lot of friends of mine that well, I'm not going to play football
because basketball was their sport.
So they had to make a decision, and I wasn't thinking, that really is not good for kids.
Gotcha.
And that in a way motivated me to enter the profession and make it one day possible that kids could play everything.
Sure, sports. So you continue to play football, and Coach Joe Rodriguez is your head football coach and defensive coordinator. And so you're playing what position in football during those times?
I played free safety, receiver on offense, then free safety.
So even with 4,000, you still played both ways.
Well, I didn't start.
Oh, okay.
In JV, yes, but once you got to varsity,
it was one of those.
Getting back to JV, I'm gonna tell you a story about when we played Los Fresnos.
Really?
Our JV had to play the varsity Los Fresnos. I don't know if you remember the team with Vicente Arizmendi, Jimmy Sanchez, the fullback. Well, that year we had played Port Isabel first. They scheduled against Brownsville JV because we were big enough, Port Isabel beat us 21-0, not too bad. We played Los Fresnos, I think it was week 3, preseason game for them, non-district. Here at the stadium, Leo Aguilar, I ain't kidding you, 76-0.
No.
Oh, yeah. They label us the 76ers since then, okay? I think it was Tom Sue was the coach at that time.
Tom Sue?
Yes.
Jerry Tom Sue, yes.
Jerry Tom Sue was the coach, and, I can remember halftime it was 50-0. And Coach Cadell, the coach I was talking about, he moved up the system. He was now our JV coach. At halftime, what do you say? When you're down 50-0, we got to go back out for 2 more quarters. But it was a lesson that we learned, and little did we know that the next year Thompson went to Mission.
Yeah, he definitely.
Right. Well, now as a varsity, Brownsville High School, we played Mission. And Joe Rodriguez, we're going to go out there, we're going to yell, "Remember the 76ers." We beat Mission pretty good.
Really? Oh, okay.
And that was a theme all week. Remember the 76ers. Wow, that was an experience that, never
So
never
the rivalries from back then, even those. But
well, that team was great. That team was first.
I think they ended up going off like a couple rounds in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And
I still remember as a strong safety, I'm sitting back there. And the line just opened up, and here came the fullback just barreling through. I said, "Oh my God, I got to tackle that guy."
Every second.
And there were no trainers that day. You saw stars, and Might have got concussion, but you kept playing.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. Just
I
walk it
mean,
off. Walk it off.
walk it off. But good experience.
Coach, growing up in the Montemayor household, how many siblings did you have, and what did
I
your
had
parents do?
two older sisters, and then I had three brothers, two older than me, and then one younger than me.
Are they all involved in like coaching or education field, or?
Not my older brother came in late. He was an athlete. Played baseball, football at with Joe Rodriguez. Also, he was on one of the state qualifying team in baseball. And then that was Gilbert. Then Charlie, my the next in line, he started playing, but then he got girlfriend, and that
Distractions.
situation, right? Distractions. Had to start a different life. And then I came around, and my younger brother also played baseball there, not football, just baseball. My sisters were involved with softball,
Mm.
not at the school level because they didn't have it then, but they played, you know,
The
the
outside
leagues.
leagues, yeah.
My mom had come from a softball playing family.
Really?
The Baker sisters, they were called. There was about six sisters that all played on the same softball team. Uh,
Wow.
and they throughout the valley. I mean, Rene Torres. I don't know if you've heard of Rene Torres. He writes a lot of historical stories in the newspaper, editorials, and he archives a lot of sports stories.
Okay.
He's written stories about the Baker sisters and their softball days. So that was our interest to athletics. I got involved with sports early. I used to love sports. I watched them all the time.
Really?
I can remember in middle school I subscribed to Sports Illustrated,
Really?
and every issue that came in, I peeled the cover and I pinned it on the wall. I had like a Hall of Fame of sports covers. Then you think about it
Nice.
today, a lot of those issues are valuable.
Oh, yeah. There's probably
Well,
not
I
too
had
many
my
out
whole wall covered with them, man.
there.
But
We didn't know
those were
back
good
then.
days. Yeah, no, we didn't think about saving them. Same with baseball cards.
Oh, yes.
You put
Yes.
them on your tires, your bike with a clothespin. My brothers told me stories about the Mickey Mantles they had, and they
Wow.
might have let them go. But,
They were those are
yes,
the ones to
sir.
have nowadays.
hmm
Um, and your dad growing up, what
My dad, he was the avid, he was a war hero to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he World War II. He got Purple Heart in the war,
Really?
Silver Star. He very decorated war hero. There's in the military, you know, I guess chronicles. They have stories about what he did, and I've always admired that about him, because he was a quiet man. Didn't say much, just worked hard. Didn't ever tell us about those stories of the war. I had to read about it to find out how he got his medals.
Wow.
I mean, there were some stories there, about one time where he went in and they were pinned down, his platoon. He got close, threw a grenade in the bunker, went in there, finished the job on all the Germans around him, and saved his platoon. And for that, he was awarded the Silver Star. But he got shot through the calf, in and out, one of those injuries, and he also got frostbite because it was so cold. It was during that time over there. I don't know if it was which part of the war, but it was very freezing, and that frostbite eventually led to further complications in life.
Wow.
But he was a good, and he played softball. I mean, a lot of the leagues in Brownsville, the Grandy Barbershop is the famous Brownsville team that played,
Yes.
competitive softball, slow pitch and fast pitch. But that was his experience with sports.
Did any of your siblings or siblings go to the military, or he was?
My brother went to the Navy. Gilbert, my oldest brother, went to the Navy. Never got on a boat. That's one thing he brags about. He said, I was in the Navy and never got on a boat. Charles didn't enter. My younger brother, Victor, went to the service, to the Navy also, but then they discovered he lied about his age.
Oh, wow.
He went in as a underage,
Okay.
and they had to end up getting him out. But he tried to get in the Army, and at that time my dad had gotten sick, and You know, it was just being him at home a lot of times because my mom would drive him to the VA in San Antonio. There was no VA hospital in Brownsville. So we spent a lot of time growing up, you know, just ourselves because of that.
And once you get to high school, coach, and you're finishing up high school, at what point did you say, I'm going to go to college and become a coach? I know you talked about Coach Gabriel.
Yeah.
But did you already see that in high school, thinking, I'm going to go become a coach? Or
Well, I guess it was my senior year, yeah. During that time off, you know, between 1 and 6 practice time, we'd go to the gym and play basketball, hoop it up, lift weights, whatever. And my senior year, I tore a cartilage, you know, playing basketball. Didn't think of it, you know, just felt something pop. Baseball season came around. My range wasn't there for shortstop, so they moved me to third base. I never got it fixed, you know, because in those days, like I said, we didn't have trainers that could check you out and schedule you appointments, MRIs, and all that stuff. We didn't have that, so I went the whole season with a torn cartilage in my right knee. You know, restricted my range at shortstop. Went to third base. Could still hit. You know, I was a left-handed batter, and yeah, I thought about it. It was our junior season before that, where we were in the playoffs in baseball. We made the playoffs in baseball, okay, and we were the top 4 juniors. We batted first, second, third, and fourth. You know, I was the third hitter. And spring training came around in football. Well, Joe Rodriguez, Tom Chavez, hey, you guys, we need to go to football practice, full pads. I said, but we got playoffs. You know, we're baseball. No, you want to play football next year? Wow. So we went to practice. You know, first day of spring training, tackling, hitting, everything. You know, you come out banged up, and also you can't hold a bat. You know, stuff.
Wow.
I thought, wait, this isn't right. You know, I can't. Why are they forcing us to do this? And so we sat out the rest of spring training. We went to baseball.
Okay.
We had played Corpus Christi, Carroll, I believe, and advanced. And so we missed out on spring training. Well, they told us at the end, hey, if you don't come to spring training, you're not going to play next year. I said, how could that be? That can't be right. Well, turned out senior year, you know, they're calling us to come into practice. I said, wait a minute, you told us we couldn't play. Well, you know, yeah, it's okay. Come on, you know. And we went back in. All the other 3 went back except I didn't.
Oh.
I said, I had principle in my mind. I said, you know what? One day I want to make it possible where kids don't have to go through this and be able to participate, you know? Wow. So I sat out my senior year at football. It was hard watching the play, you know, going to games, but I thought, you know what? I played baseball, graduated, and then I went to college.
A man of conviction, very young. Right?
Yeah, it was principle and it was conviction. And,
that's good.
It helped out in the long range.
So then you graduate high school and you go to college, right? Which is Pan American Brownsville.
I started here at Texas Southpost.
Okay.
I think it was 1 semester, and my buddy Raul's uncle, as a matter of fact, Roland's uncle, he said, you know, we're gonna go to Houston, work. I said, hey, that sounds good. At that time, you know, young, and we went for a summer, and got a pretty good job. I mean, we were working at a Sears, I believe, but just getting to work and going home was a drag. You know, the traffic. You had to spend an hour to get to work, an hour to get home. So after about 3 months, I said, you know what are we doing, man? We're just working, spending our time on the freeway. I said, you know what, I'm going to go back and enroll. And I'd missed a semester.
Okay.
So I came back and enrolled here, caught up to my class, and then the TSC was 1 year, and then I went to Pan Am in Edinburgh on my own. You know, Pan American University. I showed up over there and didn't have any counseling, didn't have any degree plan, nothing. I just went to the registration, and by that time, all classes are full. You know, all the PE, kinesia, anything you needed. I ended up taking sociology, anthropology, anything with the ology I took.
You're like,
I
that's
said, I'm going
mine.
to minor in biologies, right?
Okay.
Well, I ended up taking sociology, anthropology, social problems, and I think I had biology, you know. Well, I finally got into the system, got some counseling, and then I saw the guide and I said, oh, here's what we need to take. And I think it was by the second year there, I took 21 hours one semester, 7 3 hour
Yeah, same in
courses,
class. That's not.
straight B's, and I held a job. You know, I brought my job down from Sears and I worked in McAllen. I would drive to McAllen after school and you know, lived on my own in an apartment there down on campus. Uh, and that was a struggle. Met my wife up there.
Okay.
She was from Brownsville. Pan Am opened in Brownsville. I said, hey, she came home. I came home. Finished off here at Pan Am University of Brownsville. Graduated.
With the major in kinesiology and the minor in
And biology.
biology.
Right.
So you graduate, you find your wife, you get married. I mean, did you automatically you go to Oliveda or Perkins at the right time, or you were
Well,
looking around? Or?
Well, it was 1978. Oliveda was a brand new school. I applied. Chipper Samoda was the athletic director at the time. Very fortunate I got in the bottom of the totem pole, but seventh grade assistant, you know.
Hey, that's
But it was a science teaching that I got.
okay.
You know, that's where you get. Like I remind all the coaches, hey, you got to be a teacher first, and if you're a good teacher, the coaching is extra. It's extracurricular. Well, I got the science job, got a coaching job, seventh grade assistant football, seventh grade basketball. There was it. Got my foot in the door. Brand new school, beautiful facilities, you know, brand new equipment. Everything was brand new. Our first year, I think we went 0-8 or whatever. We had the superintendent's son on our team, Raul Bastedo. You remember Raul
Yes,
Bastedo?
yeah. The school.
His son was a seventh grader. He was in my science class too. He aced that class, but we didn't ace football. And I remember we got called in. What's going on? You know, we can't win a game. I said, well, they're learning. We're teaching them, you know, basic fundamentals. I had the offensive line. I had never played offensive line. I bought a book. My first day of coaching, complete guide to offensive line play. I still have that book, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yes. And that's where I learned offensive line techniques. And the second year we got a little bit better, won 3 games. The third year, they made me the head seventh grade coach. We flip flopped with the guy. Like, I don't know why, but I got the call plays. But I started on defense, the first 2 years. Then I went to switch to offense, and that helped a little bit. Well, I spent 8 years there. The 4 of us, all the same 4 coaches.
8 years.
We were under Porter for a while, and then they switched us to Hannah for a while. It's like because half of our kids went either way. So we had 2 systems, to teach. The 7th grade was using the Porter system. The 8th grade was using the Hannah system.
Wow.
That was weird. I said, and so, but at the same time, we learned 2 systems. Mm-hmm.
So then Oliveda and then Perkins.
Yeah.
And then you got to go to Oliveda after that.
No, I was at Oliveda for 8 years. And then I saw, the writing on the wall. I saw what was happening, where kids were coming from. They're opening a new school, Perkins, which is going to lead to Rivetta High School. Okay. I'd drive out there. I saw a future site of Rivetta High School. It was just an empty lot, weeds and trees and stuff. And then Perkins was close to my house. I said, you know what? That area is where all of our athletes at Oliveda come from, the better ones.
Gotcha.
I said, I'm going to try to get the Perkins job. And applied for athletic coordinator there, and I got that position.
That was under Chipper Zamora still as the AD?
No, by that time it was Andy White. Andy White was the AD. Okay. Because I knew that Perkins was going to lead to Rivetta. That was eventually my goal. Well, we were very fortunate at Perkins that they assigned Tom Chavez there. Tom Chavez was going to be the head coach at Rivetta. The only time in the history of any school, I think, that they hired the football coach before the principal.
Really?
They hired Tom Chavez before the principal at Rivera. And that goes back to Joe Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I told you about Tom and Joe in high school. Well, they they were out of coaching for about 10 years. When Joe Rodriguez he bought a Coors distributorship, beer distributorship, and he left coaching. And Tom went with him, for 10 years.
Wow, that did not know that part.
Yeah, that was a good 10 years there, okay? Well, the Coors deal didn't work out too well, so they came back into it. And how'd they do it? Well, Coach Joe, he got a school board position, okay? Got elected. They needed a superintendent. He hired a superintendent, Speranza Zendejas. 2 weeks later, he resigns school board. She hires him as athletic director. Okay. This is history that nobody knows about Brownsville, but I know the whole story. And then, Rivera's going to they hired Tom Chavez. Guess who hired Tom Chavez? Joe Rodriguez. I said, you know what? I want to be on that team because I saw the future. Yeah. And I knew Joe and I knew Tom. And fortunately, we got the Perkins job. Tom was there 1 year with us, put in his system. I followed his system to a T. We won the district championship first year.
Wow, nice.
Because we had the athletes. Yeah, I said the best athletes from Oliveira came to Perkins. We won football, we won basketball, we won track. They were athletes, they're studs. They opened Rivera the following year, but only for freshmen and JV.
Yeah, that was like in 89?
87, 88, they opened Rivera.
Yes, I remember it was around that time.
I was there at 87 through 90. So Tom moved up. He took Sal Hernandez with him, and most of the staff still there. I stayed there. He said, Coach, give me 2 more groups, and our first varsity year, I'm going to bring you up. Which would have been, and that it worked out perfect. 3 years in a row, we won championships. We produced 3 teams. So in 1990, first varsity season, he brought me up.
Who was on that staff? Do you remember?
With me? All head coaches now. I mean, looking back, Sal Hernandez was the defensive coordinator. He went on to be head coach there after Tom left at Rivera. Myself, Tony Padilla, who was head coach at
Tiger's
Hannah.
dad.
Yes, Tiger's dad. Yes. Joe, Rene Avete, Noe Gonzalez, and myself, and Meme Rodriguez. Okay, that was the varsity staff. We had Farley Trevino at the JV. Farley went on to be a head coach at Porter. Elvis Hernandez was at the JV level also.
Yes, and coached at St. Joe.
Yes, head coach too. So you look at the head coaches there, myself, Sal, Tony, Farley, Elvis came out of that group right there. So we had a solid staff. I mean, we started, Rivera there, I think it was 4A. Our second season in varsity, we made the playoffs. And from then on, it was just all, they moved up to 5A, and then we won, 3 or 4 or 5 years in a row. Up to 1998, I think that's when I left.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to that 90. I remember that 94 season. You had a running back named Pete Coronado, correct?
Pete Coronado.
And I remember
going to that game. I coached the running backs. Yes.
I remember going to that game.
It was against Los Fresnos.
Was it Los Fresnos? It probably was. I remember it was a cold night, and back then Sam Stadium was it was dirt by that time, right?
Yeah,
it was like straight up dirt, hard, because so many schools played on it and stuff. Right. I remember Pete Coronado ran like. Yeah, he ran hard. He ran hard, that kid. I remember him a lot.
He had about 365 yards against Los Fresnos. Yeah, I remember that game.
So it was a good.
Yeah, I coached the running backs. He was my first prize. I mean, Pete was a horse, man. That guy could run. But at the same time, we had good offensive line. A good system, good scheme. For a while there, we called it tailback high. Pete Coronado had 1,000 yards, and the year after that, I had Tony Vasquez, Dr. Tony Vasquez. He's an eye doctor in town now. 1,000-yard rusher. Felipe Mendez came after him, another 1,000 yards. Then I had a Gerald Neal for 4 consecutive seasons. 1,000-yard rushers.
Getting after it.
I remember one headline in the Herald one time, tailback high.
Nice.
Took a little pride in that because I coached the backs and I called the plays. I was the offensive coordinator.
That offensive system was an under center type.
Power eye.
Power eye. It was power
Power eye. Eye formation.
And run it.
Split. Bootleg, play action. Perfect system. Simple system, and it worked. If you had the personnel, you line them up the way you want to go.
So, and all the way through 1998, you're coaching there, winning. I know Rivera was solid back then. Because Rivera was new. Rivera was one of the newest high schools, but they came out up and running.
Yeah, speaking about the field, you talk about that. Our first year in 5A, we had to play Nicky Rowe and by district. They're 10-0. Nicky Rowe 10-0. They're coming to play us, Sam Stadium. And it rained and poured, and between the hashes was all mud, okay? Mud. Ankle deep mud. But from the hashes to the sideline, grass. So, they had a great, I think it was Ronnie, I forgot his name, Ronnie Luna or something, the quarterback. Great option quarterback. Well, he couldn't do anything in the mud. And we shut him down. Well, what do? I ran all my plays to the hash, to the left side, or to the right.
Yeah, because it was grass.
We were on grass. We beat them. They were 10-0. It didn't mean nothing to us. We advanced. And that year, I think we went to by district. That's what we had to play Victoria. First year they had overtime, in the system. Corpus Christi, right? We're playing at Buck Stadium. They were favored the big time. They were big favorites. They had a tremendous running back. I think his name was Brown, and he was running all over us. Well, we had him beat. I was upstairs, in the booth, and it's the end of the game. We're up by 7. They're a running team. They had the ball on the 30-yard line. They had to go 70 yards. I closed my book. I said, we're going next right. We had already scouted the next opponent. It was going to be Lake Travis, from Austin, with quarterback Drew Brees was the quarterback.
Oh yeah, he went on. Yeah,
I don't know if it was Lake Travis. One
Austin
Westlake. Yeah, that team.
Westlake.
We had already scouted them. We were going to play them. We were high fiving. What do? They throw a 70-yard pass.
Really?
And they tie it up. So we went overtime. I said, open my book again. Okay, well, overtime, new rules, Start on 25. You get the ball first. Then we scored. They scored. Second overtime, we scored. They scored. Then we scored because we switched, right? On the fourth overtime, I think Jesse Alvarez, a quarterback, rolled out. Throws the pass, got intercepted by the linebacker. I said, we got to tackle. All our guys just froze. They thought the game, the possession's over. I'm yelling at Tom Charles, tell him to tackle that guy. Tackle, get on him. The linebacker went to the sideline, ran all the way, 75 yards, and that was the game. We did not coach him to stop, that the play was not over.
Yeah, you still got to.
They thought the possession was over, and they were going on defense. We all froze. 4 overtimes, but that was a game to remember, man.
Wow.
So the following year, we're playing PSJ North by district. They're 10-0. Tony Villarreal, he's at far north. We had to play him at the stadium in McAllen, neutral site. Sold out. They're 10-0, man. We didn't have a chance. We were underdogs. I think we beat them 10-7. Coach Chavez always tells me that was the best called game ever because we kept them in control of the ball, kept them off the field.
They're running the slot T, correct?
Yeah, they were running. Oh yeah, and that was a great win too. And who we got to play again? Victoria, by district, up in San Antonio this time, Alamo Stadium. This time they didn't take no prisoners. They kicked our butts, man. But it was a good experience.
Oh, that's good. Because back in the day, in the 90s, how many would go to playoffs?
I think it was only 2.
Two, right? Now it's four. It depends on what
Yeah.
the 6A's and stuff like that. But back then it was two, and it was
Oh yeah.
battling. It was always battling.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rivera was known. There were some bad boys of not bad boys,
Yeah.
but there were some strong kids from that area.
So that was 98, 97, yeah. And then in the off season, I asked Coach Chavez, "Hey, Coach, what are you gonna do the next 5 years?" He said, "I ain't going nowhere." I said, "Well, I'm gonna look for head position. Is that okay?" He says, "If you need to." I said, "I'm thinking about Lopez opened up."
Lopez was barely going to open up.
No, Lopez was already
Already
open.
open,
They
okay.
had gone 4 years without winning a game,
Mm.
without winning a UIL game. And I said, and he tells me, "Coach, Lopez is a coach's graveyard." I said, "Coach, they're the same kind of kids we got there, Well, I think be tough. So give it a shot." And I ended up getting the job.
Remember Lopez. And how'd that first you go to Lopez? How'd that first year go? Who was the AD at that time? It was still Joe Rodriguez.
Joe Rodriguez was the
Still.
AD. Yeah.
So you go to Lopez, and how was that first year as being a head coach? Because I mean, it's a big change.
Well, I studied it first. In the off season, I went to their basketball games. They had tremendous basketball team, great athletes. I saw a little bit of their soccer season. They had great athletes. I said, they keep winning in baseball, soccer, basketball. How come they can't win in football? I said, the kids are there. And, so thought about it, applied. And January 21st, I was a finalist for the position against John Lerma. I don't know if you know who John Lerma was.
He was it Rainbow? The Rainbow?
Oh, he's
and
McAllen,
South. I think
Rio
Harlingen
Grande
South.
City, Harlingen South. He was Hall of Fame coach, man. I said, "Oh man, I don't have a chance." John Lerma. Going back 4 years, when Lopez opened up in '94, I actually applied for that position first. But what they did, the principal from Hannah, her name was Deanie Irvin, she was transferred to Lopez, and she brought her coordinator with her, Henry Martinez,
Okay.
Hank. So the Lopez job closed, and it opened up the Hannah position. They just sent all our applications over there. And I said, "Well, I really didn't want to go to Hannah, even though it was a good school." They ended up giving the job to John Lerma, the guy I'm talking about. Okay. Well, 4 years later, me and John Lerma are the finalists for Lopez. And fortunately, I had Berta Pena, principal there. She gave me a shot. It was a challenge. You had to change the whole culture of football there. They were not a football school. I think Henry Martinez went 3 seasons there. Had a tough time because they didn't have the facilities at first. They weren't complete. Then didn't have the sub varsity. They didn't have the middle school program set up. So really everything was going against it. I think Pat Ward was his name. Ward. He went in for one season, and he left in November. Okay,
Wow.
Didn't even stay the year. Well, that's what opened up the position. So I went in. I said, "Okay, well, Bastedo Middle School just opened up." I said, "We can get that." Because you got to work with a junior high. Junior high's got to be exactly your system, feed up to the high school, and work together. So I got the job, went to work. First day athletic period, I go in the weight room. There's 23 guys, 4 or 5 coaches. I said, "Is this the freshman JV or varsity?" "Coach, this is everybody." I said, "What? This is everybody?" I said, "Well, let's go. Tomorrow, we're all going to the halls. We're going to go retract, recruit, because the kids are here." Well, they were in basketball. They were in soccer. They were in baseball. I said, "We got to get them in athletics, weight training." And they did a good job, Robin Powell, Gil Myers, these guys, Chris Brown, they were all there before, and they stuck it out with me. They picked up my system. Yeah. They ended up staying there the whole time with me, 13 seasons, which was great. And I was fortunate to hire Hector Garcia. Remember Hector Garcia?
Yeah, I think he coached Porter.
He
Like,
coached at Porter, St. Joe, and then
I know
Porter.
he was in Los Frenos back in the
Yeah,
day.
Los
Los Frenos back in
Fresnos,
the day.
San Benito with Tommy Roberts. I saw him at the City of Palms coaching clinic in McAllen. I got hired on January 21st, and that weekend, I think the next weekend, was City of Palms in McAllen. I go up there, and Hector found me. I didn't go looking for him. He says, Coach, Tommy Roberts, it's his last year. I'm going to be needing a job. I said, well, what do you coach? Defense. I need defense. Hired him as defensive coordinator. Best hire I ever had.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hector Garcia. He came in, helped me out tremendously. First year, season come up, we went 3-7. We won 3 games. Well, they hadn't won a game in 4 years. So the first game we won, boy, the school went crazy. I said, all right, things are happening here. Second game, we won 3-7. I said, well, it's good start. The Brownsville Herald, the sports writers, Coach of the Year, Coach Montemayor Lopez. Coach of the Year, we only won 3 games. I said, yeah, but Lopez hadn't won anything. I said, no, it's a city, no problem. Following year, I think we went 4-6. We were in 4A too. Okay, the other Brownsville schools were 5A, so we were like 4A. We were like the step brother of Brownsville.
You're playing the 4A would have been like Mercedes, Edcouch,
Mercedes, Edcouch, 4A. Yeah. We don't wear A's on your jersey, Yeah. Hey, Edcouch, Mercedes, those guys. Los Fresnos, Sherryland. It was a tough district. Yeah. Well, anyway, the third year, we went 7-3, tied for second. Okay, but we were tied with Los Fresnos, PSJA, Sherryland, and somebody else. And in the tiebreaker, we were left out because there was only 2 teams at that time. Yeah, at that time. Well, that's my third year there, and I had started with a group of freshmen the first year, the 23 I told you about. Yeah. Well, now they're going to be seniors. And boy, our senior year, we took off. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. What's going on? I hired Henry Cariel. Do you remember Henry Cariel? Yes, sir. You know him. He's a good guy. Yeah. He helped me tremendously. He was my offensive coordinator, but I still called the plays. He took my system in, learned it, was a really good addition to our staff. And all of a sudden, we're sitting at 8-0. Okay. And that year, we had PSJA Memorial in our district, Sherryland, Edcouch, Mercedes. It was no cakewalk, man.
No, those guys bring it.
Well, we're playing Saturday afternoon, PSJ Memorial. We're 8-0, and we get into it's a Saturday afternoon, kind of hot. We get into overtime game. Before that, I got to go back. My quarterback, Christopher Scott Rodriguez, he ended up being All Valley MVP that year. 5'7", 145 pounds, 150 pounds. Just a tough kid. Played both ways, quarterback and safety. I mean, he's a football player. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're a quarterback playing both ways. You're a dude.
And he ran the offense. He was just a football player. He just had that canny ability to just do things, And we ran option to the left. I still remember the play. Option to the left. He goes down the line, reads the defensive end, pitches, but kept his hand right here. And that guy put his helmet right on his hand right there. Broke his hand. Came out, couldn't pull the ball, couldn't take a snap. Oh, boy. We got to go, put in a sophomore quarterback. Mikey Pettis, his name, Mikey. And we survived, got into overtime. All right. First overtime, we scored first, but we missed the extra point. They scored, so they're kicking the extra point to win, right? First overtime. Scotty Rodriguez, quarterback, taped hand, got in the game somehow. I don't know how he got in the game. He leaped, which was probably illegal, leaped over the center, blocked the extra point to keep us
To keep
tied.
going next, yeah, overtime.
Well, the ball rolls, and it's rolling towards up my sideline, and they're trying to pick it up. We're trying to pick it up because we can pick it up and score, we win. They're trying to pick it up, and it's, if pigskin is loose,
That-
it rolls all the way to right in front of me at the 50-yard line before it's blown dead. And right there is Joe Sanchez, the head coach of PSJ Memorial, right over the ball, yell at the referee. I said, "Hey, what's going? That's unsportsmanlike." Should have been.
yeah, he was in the middle
Well, the
of the
referee,
field.
no, go ahead. It's a dead ball. Ball, next to. So what do you mean dead ball? That's unsportsmanlike conduct. We should be starting the next series 15 yards ahead, or half the distance. Well, no, I didn't
They didn't
do
call
that.
him.
We ended up going 2 overtimes, and they scored the second time because they went first. They scored. And here we were, the sophomore quarterback on 4th down. We threw the end zone, got dropped. So we lost that game. And I went to the official, said, the rule is, in sportsmanlike, what you should have done. No, coach, that's not the rule. I said, well, you look it up and you let me know. Monday morning, I get the call. Coach, I don't want to mention his name. You're right, should have been 15 yards, half the distance. I said, well, you want to tell my kids that? Because, we're 8-1. And guess what? We got to play Sharyland next week for the district championship in Sharyland. Oh, boy. Well, that led to, but it didn't end there. The next week, we're going to Sharyland. We're 8-1. I think they're tied for first. The winner's the district champ in 16-4A, whatever. Boy, they had a runner they called the Train. Okay, that's all I remember. The Train. They had an announcer. The Train running around the corner. The Train, and boy, they scored 15 on us like that. First half, it was 15-0, and at halftime, I'm telling my kids, well, guys, we're not gonna give up. We got to go back and play the second half right now. Sophomore quarterback had a difficult time adjusting. Let's all just say a prayer together and go out and finish strong, We stop them here, Coach Garcia, right? We'll stop them this drive. We score and we're back in the game. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're all fired up. We come outside. They got the ball and they went boom, 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 5 plays and scored. The Train. Here we go again. The Train. I said, oh, my God. It's 21-zip. They kick off. I think we fumbled the ball inside the 10. So it's first and 10, inside the 10. I said, you know what? We're going to go bombs away right now. I had a speedy receiver on the right side. I said, George Acosta's name. And Mikey said, you just throw the ball as far as you can, as hard as you can. First down, throws back, lets it fly. The guy runs under it, boom, catches it, gets to the 50. All right, here we go. Do it, run it again. Boom. Touchdown.
Nice.
Okay, now we're going. Let's go. It's 21-7. We ended up tying them, okay? But they got the ball at towards the end of the fourth quarter. They're driving. Coach Garcia, we're going to stop them, right? Yeah, Coach, we're going to stop them. That Train, they're moving. Oh, we can't stop them. Time's running out. They got inside the 10-yard line, our 10-yard line. And I still remember the play to this day. They ran a sweep to the right side. And our outside linebacker, Saul Saldivar, bless his heart, he works at HEB. I see him all the time. He said, this is the kid that made us famous, man. He ran, put a helmet on the ball pumped up in the air. Our safety, Arturo Galvez, catches it in midair, goes 95 yards on their sideline, right in front of their sold-out fans and all their coaches. There's 95 yards, and we scored. And we got the lead 28-21.
Nice.
And that's how the game ended. We won the district championship. Man,
That's a great.
I'll never forget that.
Win. That's a
never
good
forget
win.
that. one of our best games.
That what
That I
year
can
was
remember.
that?
That was 2001.
2001.
Yeah, that was my fourth season there, and our first playoff appearance.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, because the year before you already had because there was four
Yeah.
tied, and
Hmm.
to finally get back. And of those, you say when you walked in there was 23. So by the time your senior year, how many did you have?
Oh, we had three full teams. We had three a varsity, a JV, and a freshman group
Awesome.
of 35 each. The program was rolling. You know, I came in my first year with T-shirts said it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know, the second year it's happening. The third year, one of my employees, the chief custodian Juan Ray, he says, "Coach, what happened?" Hey, it's happening.
It's
Don't worry.
happened.
But anyway, that was our motto. Well, it gets better because the following year they split the 4As into two districts. Okay, Sheridan was up north. We were down here. We made the playoffs. Guess who we got to play? We got to play Sheridan again.
Oh, on the first round,
by
the
district. They were the champion. We were second or fourth, I think. I don't know. At that time, it was 4 teams. They were tough. I said, boys, they're gonna be mad at us, man. And so at the flip, me and Fred Sanchez is the coach, a good friend of mine. I said, Coach, do you want to go home and home? I said, actually, no, I don't. I wanted to disrupt their. They were Friday night. I said, I want to disrupt theirs. I'm used to Saturdays. I want to play Saturday. Well, let's flip for it. Won the flip. We got Saturday. I said, okay. How about home and home? I said, I don't want to go over there again. We flipped neutral site. We got neutral site. We played in Westlaco.
Okay.
On Saturday night. Yeah. And they're favored. I mean, this is not my best team. This is the next year. All my good guys graduated. Well, me and Hector are sitting there before the game, Coach, they look mad over there. I said, oh, yeah, they're bad. This is what happened the year before. Well, we had a game plan. They had a tremendous nose tackle. I can remember I would watch his film on it. I said, how are we going to block this guy, Well, I thought about it. Then me and Henry put our heads together. We said, you know what? I'm going to come out in a straight T formation. We're going to straight T. I want the center and the two guards just to go to him every play. Every play. He lines up over center.
Yeah.
I said, I want 3 guys on him. And the 2 backs on the straight T, they're gonna lead block for the fullback or do whatever we need to do. Let's just frustrate the heck out of him. We blew him out 35-14 or something like that. It was a game plan that, this worked to perfection.
Nice.
And we neutralized their best player, took him out of the game. They didn't know what to do. But simple thing,
Yeah, you saw something and you said,
I just said, what? We can't block him one-on-one. We can't even double team him. We're going to have to triple team this guy because he'll get off the. And every play, 3 guys were going at him.
Yeah, it takes a toll. It takes a toll. It takes a toll after four
and that was a big win. And guess what we had to play after that? Cal Allen, Phil Danaher.
Hey, the legend himself, right?
He was scouting the game, so we met after the game. Him and his wife. He didn't send any scouts or anybody. It was just him and his wife. He said, Coach, yeah, y'all look pretty good out there today, And his wife says, Coach, I love your uniforms. I said, well, thank you, but I hope you love us next week. We lost the flip. We had to go play over there. Oh, man, if you've ever done that, you show up to their campus, they make you walk a mile to the stadium, from the dressing room. And then in their end zone, the back of their end zone, they got headstones for all their opponents that they defeated. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're playing, Cal Allen, and needless to say, it was a good experience, but it was fun.
And that was in 2000.
That was in 2002.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Coach, along the way, you when you're the head coach and you coached all the way to 2011, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
How many of those are now head coaches?
Oh, yeah, the coaching tree. Well, to begin with, Hector Garcia was the first one. He branched out.
He went to Porter.
No, he went to St. Joe
St.
first.
Joe, yeah,
yes. Him and Henry went to St. Joe. that was in 2000. We went after 2002, 2003, and 2004. We didn't make the playoffs, and that's when they departed. Uh, I got Sammy Montalvo to come in, and that's another story we'll talk about. But they Hector was the first one. Uh, Coach Mike Ramirez, remember Mike Ramirez?
Yes.
Well, he came onto my staff in 2009, I believe, and I thought I lost him to veterans when veterans opened up. He was the first choice for Veterans High School. Yeah, I knew the principal over there. She called me. I recommended him highly. He's a great guy, great coach, very knowledgeable. And he was a pick for the job. Got to the school board, but because of politics on the board, Hannah had put up somebody. They turned him down. So when Mike's name came up, he said, "Well, you didn't want mine, so I don't want yours." They threw them both out.
Oh, wow.
Which was a shame, But anyway, Mike stayed there for 2 years after I left. He's now the AD in Carrollton.
Yes.
Yeah, good guy. And then after him, we're looking at Beto Leal at Rivera. J.C. Ramirez.
Brownsville veteran.
Let me tell you a story about J.C. In 2001, after that year, I guess he had just finished school. He came to my office one day, young guy, never coached before, nothing. Says, "Coach, right now you guys are the class of the town, best program going. I was wondering if I could just help you out, volunteer." I said, "Hey, I need all the help I can get, man. You come in anytime you want, help us out." Well, I'm going to start teaching over here at the Bastedo Middle School science. I said, "Oh, you're biology too?" I said, "That's how I started." That's good. So he'd go to Bastedo, teach, and then after school he'd come work with our freshmen. I put him in freshman. The next year he got hired at Lopez. Now we got another new coach, JV. He eventually ended up in the varsity. That's how he got his roots, man. And if you talk to him, he'll tell you the same story. I feel real proud about him when I see him. He gave me this hat.
Hey, JC
I
Ramirez.
said, you got my initials on there, right? That's my logo. I was using that logo in junior high when I would put my name. I said, "There's a V and there's an M." And I said, "You're using my logo up there." He says, "No, it's." But I'm a big fan of his. I was a big fan of Beto's. Beto. I think Beto got a bad deal there. I mean, he's a better coach than that, and they just didn't give him the opportunity. Mike Ramirez, Hector Garcia, those are coaches that have gone on from our staff.
Coach, and when in those coaching times, did you have a game day routine? Is there like something like on Fridays? Is there something that you had to do and stick with it?
Well, it's always the same pretty much. You try to keep your same routine. I know I always spent time with my family the night before and the day of. I mean, it was always lunch. And then as far as routines, we had schedules. I was a schedule guy. I mean, I had itineraries. I would write up itineraries every time. And those we stuck to all the time. From the beginning, entering the locker room, the pregame meal, the issue equipment, the dressing time, on the field, all that stuff. Those routines are pretty staple. I mean, kept that, but out of the ordinary, no, nothing out of the ordinary. I wasn't very superstitious as far as
Game
particular
gear
things.
Stuff,
No. Yeah. We try to keep everybody uniform. I said, a lot of head coaches, they always want to wear something different. I didn't. I always wore what everybody wore. And you couldn't tell if I was a head coach or not until you saw me yelling at the referees, But
Coach, what if we were to ask some of your former players, what's one thing Coach Montemayor always said in practice? What do you think they would say?
I'd go in there and say, "Only the winner goes to dinner, man. Let's go. Practice like you play. Perfect practice makes perfect plays, and practice should always be harder than game game situations, but a lot of cliche stuff. I had a book of quotes. I remember I'd always pull that out and always write one. The theme of the week and stuff like that. But pretty standard stuff. Mm-hmm.
When you know, when you have some players that they do everything right, and sometimes along the way they're not the starters, and they come to you and they're like, "Man, coach, I think I'm gonna quit and stuff." What's some things that you like? Even if kids are listening to now, like, what would you want to tell them to?
Well, number one, you think about putting a life situation. If you have a job, you can't just quit your job when you want to. You got responsibilities. Number one, your teammates. Are you gonna, let your teammates down? Your family has high expectations of you. You know, maybe your friends, but you try to keep them motivated to come out. I mean, we had situations there at Lopez that you wouldn't believe. I mean, I heard every excuse in the book, but at the same time, a lot of them were true. The family situations, especially the southmost area. The families weren't really supportive of football. I mean, the football they knew was football.
Yeah,
soccer. They weren't real high on banging heads and and injuries and stuff like that. But so our culture had to really change there. I mean, it was difficult. I mean, what do you tell a kid when coach, I can't go to practice today. I got to go pick up my mom. Got to go bail her out, or I got to go. Got to go to work because they lost their job, and you got to make concessions, and we did a lot. I mean, we but a lot of times we made it where it was so much fun that they didn't want to go.
This is where their outlet
Yes.
they want to be at.
Yes,
They want to be.
And if you don't see them throughout the day, like towards the end of my career, things changed. Administrations changed, and it was more towards the tax test, and they pull them out of athletics. So now you don't see them during the athletic period, and then you don't know if they're going to come after school or not, and so you lose track of some kids, and it became very difficult to continue doing what we did. And a lot of our success depended on that. I remember going into administration and said, I can't compete with those Fresnos and Westlaco and Harlingen. Now we're 6A. You know what? I don't see my kids throughout the day. I said they're gaining 5-6 hours advantage on us every week. Add that up, and at the same time, pulling out coaches out of athletics because they need them in the classroom. They need them this and that. I lost my ability to do my job, really.
Gotcha, yeah.
I couldn't be the athletic coordinator I wanted to be because we were restricted. And at the same time, I'm sure that, the administration felt the same way in their position. So that's one of the main reasons that I had to step down.
You felt like it was time to...
Yeah. I mean, I could have gone on, but at the same time, I said, you know what, 32 years is a lot. And then, of course, there was a situation there towards the end of my career that really impacted us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if you remember in 2010 when our preseason started, and our starting quarterback supposedly was going to be our starting quarterback. Had a situation we got involved with the law, and that really hurt our program.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And then,
I mean, we were geared up to play Harlingen Cardinals. He was scheduled to start quarterback, and midweek, boom. I said, "Wow, that just..." It was shocking there, but it affected our whole season, our whole group. I mean, even me. I mean, I hated to have to reflect on that, but that's when you got to say, you know what, move on. But anyways.
No, Coach. One thing I like this. I've enjoyed this part of the podcast a lot along the way. I call it lasting impact. What I do is I reach out to some former players and some coaches that were either coached on your staff or in your coach.
Been a long time ago.
And I ask them to describe you in one word and elaborate. So I was fortunate to get some great people, and I want to share with you. Okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
read what they said or what they
Okay.
wrote me, and then I'm gonna say who it was.
Okay.
The first, they would describe you authentic. Coach Montemayor always did a great job of developing relationships with his coaches. He really took us young coaches under his wing and made us feel important to the program and its development. The passion that I have as a football coach started with the first couple of years of coaching sub-varsity football at Lopez High School. I learned a lot, and then I've become the coach I am today. He treated everyone in the building with respect and had high expectations for all of us. This is from Neil Schuster, who's the current offensive coordinator for Los Fresnos.
Yes.
Yeah, he said, he goes, first of all, he goes, tell him I say hello. And then he also, he goes, you know what? He gave me my first shot at varsity. You know, and I know Coach Schuster's doing great things. When I first met him, he was on the defensive side of Los Fresnos, and now he's on the offensive side.
I'm so happy to see that he's advancing, man. Yep, give a lot of people the first opportunities.
The next person, Coach, is organized and cerebral. Coach Montemayor is organized and cerebral. Everything we did as a program was well thought out, made great hires, and trusted his assistants to do their job. Took a chance on me. I failed miserably one time, and yet he allowed me to learn and try again. As a young coach, I never doubted we could win every game we played. Looking back, we probably were outgunned in a bunch of those matchups, but our team never felt that way. That's from JC Ramirez, coach.
Oh, yeah, JC.
Yeah, you know,
sounds just like him. Sounds like him. Yep.
I think off the camera I might ask you what he failed miserably that one time. Yeah, I'll ask that one after off the camera. The next one, coach, is leadership. They described your leadership. Says Coach Montemayor was firm but fair. He led by example, expected accountability, and always had our backs. He never yelled to get respect. He earned it by treating us like men and never asking for more than he gave himself. He allowed his assistants to coach their position groups, but was always watching. When he spoke, we listened. This is from Michael Sanchez. He played for you 2004, 2008.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And then he said he got to see a little more. He played with your son baseball.
Yeah.
He used to play baseball as well.
Good kid. Good family.
Next one, Coach, says inspirational. Coach Montemayor was inspirational. He was a powerful presence. He pushed me beyond my limits and believed in my potential even when I doubted myself. He held me to a higher standard that shaped me as a person and my game. He was firm and made me better and stronger, both on the field and off the field. That's from Tony Vasquez. The Dr. Tony Vasquez. Tony. From part of the, tailback, what'd you call it?
Tailback High.
Tailback High, yes.
One prerequisite. They all had to bench 250, bench 300 and power clean 250. That was their prerequisite because they were going to take a pounded boy in our offense. He was a good one, though. He was very intelligent.
Coach, now that you've heard all this, what's your initial reaction or feeling about when you hear all this?
I'm really flattered, I had a lot of confidence in all my players and all my kids, and in myself. You had to have confidence. You got to exude that confidence so that they can feel it. You have to monitor. As a head coach, I had to monitor everybody, every program, and it was difficult. But at the same time, hey, you make sure we never had a scandal. We never had any issues at our school. Players showed up. Coaches always showed up. We were always on time. And it's kind of flattering to hear that from some of those, and I'm really proud of them. But yeah.
Hey, sports fans and podcast listeners. We know how much passion goes into every game and practice. And to truly shine, your team needs the best gear. That's why we're thrilled to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Game One. Game One isn't just a supplier, they're the premier provider of everything your team needs. From whether you're looking to outfit your entire league, get custom fan gear, or simply refresh your team's look, Game One delivers. Ready to elevate your game? Then you've got to reach out to Leo Zamaripa, your dedicated Game One sales representative. He's ready to help you with all your needs. You can reach Leo directly at 956-442-6844. That's 956-442-6844. So for all your team's apparels, uniform, and equipment needs, remember the name, Game One. And tell Leo that One Time Outlet Podcast sent you.
Emmett Smith.
Movies or TV shows?
TV shows.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Texas summer or Texas winter?
I love the winters. Cool. Yeah, summer's too hot. That's one of the reasons I retired.
I think every year it gets hotter and hotter.
I feel the climate change. I felt it.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Oh, that's a tough one. Christmas. Yes.
Mullet or mohawk?
Probably had look like a mullet. Use that word a lot.
Nah, that Jerry Thompson was known for that.
Really?
He called it
Mullet?
mullet.
Bunch of mullets.
Patrick Inskeep also already.
Good guy.
Peanut butter, crunchy or smooth?
Crunchy.
Chevy or Ford?
Chevy, man.
Chess or checkers?
Chess. My grandson. We played chess all the time.
George Strait or George Jones?
George Strait.
Staubach or Bradshaw?
Ooh, Staubach.
Okay. Text or call?
Text. I like text.
Like text. Onion rings or French fries?
French fries.
Barbecue or tacos?
Oh boy. Well, barbecue. I love the barbecue.
Okay. And the last one, Coach. Do you believe in ghosts?
Well, I saw one.
I want to hear that story.
I believe that. Yeah. It was shortly after my mother-in-law passed away. They had just moved in with us. You know, they were elderly, and right after I retired, as a matter of fact, no, 2010, that season. They moved in October 2010, and she passed away January 2011, and I had already submitted my retirement. And I was up late. I'm a night owl, by myself in the living room, and then she walked in the room. Where's my room? I said, your room is that way. She was going the wrong direction. Oh, okay. She went that way where her husband was, my father-in-law. I said, I do believe it. I told my wife the next day, I said, it was as real as you can imagine. And I was not sleeping. I was in the middle of a TV show, and it was true. She was there.
You felt it.
Oh yeah.
I remember this when my dad passed away. I want to share this because talking about that because when my dad passed away, I remember I was like a couple of days after I was sitting on the couch, just sitting there and the TV was on, but I don't even remember listening, and like I started dozing off, and I heard the door open, and I heard when my dad smoked, I heard him turn the cigarette on, and I remember him talking, but I was so focused to get my eyes open, like I was like, that I didn't hear what he said, and hopefully, and part of me says, you know what, he was saying, hey, I'm good, I'm okay, but I remember like the door opening and the cigarette, like to turn on the cigarette, but I was like trying to open my eyes that I didn't hear what he said. You know what I'm saying? So I remember that.
No.
There's something out there, but I'm glad, that's.
Yes.
I
do believe.
Coach, we're gonna talk about, when you were the head football coach, you were also the athletic coordinator, right? So you were in charge, like when other sports, volleyball and basketball, they would come to you and have some. I want to talk about that. Along the way, did you have to ever hire head coaches for the sports?
Basically, yes. That was part of the job. You had to interview and hire them. I had a big impact in bringing in baseball coaches like Beto Leal was my baseball coach. I hired him. He went on to win 4 consecutive district championships.
Wow.
Great baseball coach. Basketball coach Chris Brown. I had Coach Yebeda when I came in. Jose Yebeda. He went to Nicky Rowe, but I hired Chris Brown after that. Then Victor Martinez, the baseball coach now at Lopez. He's still there.
Wow.
Gave him his first job. So it's been about 15 years there. Track coaches, volleyball. Anytime it's open up, you got to first find the teaching position that fits them. Because coaches are teachers, and people forget that. You got to be a teacher first, and that's one thing I always reminded them. Hey, 90% of your salary comes from that end. You got to take care of that side first before you do this other side. So they got to be good teachers first, and if they're going to be a good teacher, they'll be a good coach. Nice. Yes, sir.
In that, when you're being the athletic coordinator and hiring coaches, can you talk about maybe a couple of things, like what's a significant challenge that you faced along the way, or like what's most of the times issues that you deal with along the way?
Oh well, number one, UIL rules. They got to be knowledgeable in the UIL rules. And I'll bring up an example in '94, our soccer coach. Actually talking about the first week I was hired in '98. '98, the first week there was an incident with our girls soccer where they were playing a tournament in Harlingen South, and one of the parents got in a scuffle with a referee. Okay,
Wow.
so
Throwing the
it was
fire.
brought to the committee. That's the first day on the job. I think I went to a meeting, and here we are. I gotta figure out what we're gonna do. They ended up putting us on probation, girls soccer,
Wow.
and that same year, I went to the district executive committee, 16 4A, and they nominated me because my principal didn't go to the meeting as the district chair, the incoming. I said, wait a minute, I just got hired. You're it now. They all voted unanimous. I said, oh, okay, here we go. And that year, there was another incident in soccer, boys soccer. Ed Couch Elsa and who was the other team? PSJ, somebody. They got into a brawl.
The kids.
Yes.
Kids or
Yes,
fans?
kids on the field. Fans jumped over into the. We ended up going to Austin
UIL. They got
district.
to that.
I mean, state executive committee. We had to fly up there, me and my principal, and we're the chair people, and they were gonna let him off the hook, towards the end of the meeting. But then when the head coach, Elsa coach, can I say something? Yes, sir. What? Sometimes my players get so angry I can't control them.
Oh, no.
And half of those guys on the state committee are ex-coaches, superintendents, and one of them says, "You mean to tell me as a coach you can't raise your voice and control your kids? We need to look at this again." And they opened the book again and ended up giving them probation. They were off the hook. I said, "Why did you say anything?" But no. And then getting back to 2004, not '94. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. We were in the running for playoffs soccer, and Harlingen South was in our district. They brought up an ineligible player that supposedly we had. Porter had reported that we had an ineligible player. That Porter was now at Lopez.
Okay.
And they saw him at the game, on the field, dressed up, supposedly. Turns out he had transferred to Lopez, but wasn't out on the team. He was in the picture, dressed in clothing, regular clothing, but with the team.
Mm.
But he didn't participate. Okay. Well, we had to go in front of the committee, and I had to pull out my old Perry Mason impression and just defend our stance. Don Hall was the committee chair. They wanted to forfeit our whole season. Ed Couch, Harlingen South, Porter. They're all against us because we had a pretty good team that year. Well, we ended up winning our challenge, and they saw the picture. The kid was not in the game.
Yeah,
so
he was.
We didn't have to forfeit any games. 2004, what do? We went on to win the state championship.
Wow. So
we were that close to being disqualified, and if we didn't defend ourselves that day, we went on to the state championship, the first state championship that Brownsville won in soccer.
So you did a great Perry Mason.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll never let Escandón forget that. He's still there, Mamadeo. They had some tremendous seasons, and he's forever grateful to me for that. But yeah.
So as the athletic coordinator, I mean, you're being in those meetings. You better know the UIL rules.
You got to be learning and all that. And you got to make sure that they know the rules. And, they turn in their eligibility list to me, and I make sure proofread them, make sure all the birth dates are in order before we submit them, all that good stuff.
Yes, and
it's an administrative position. Yeah, and the worst thing about the ISD, we didn't have athletic secretaries like all these other places.
It's all you.
They all had their secretary. I was a secretary. Typing requisitions and typing lists and. Yeah, we didn't have that help that other places did.
Man, so you were in some big meetings.
You had to be organized. It is a challenge. Yeah.
Coach, beyond wins and losses, that people grade that as like a successful, but beyond the wins and losses, how would you define a successful athletic program?
Well, I'd always tell my kids, hey, winners will always lose more games than they win, because they keep coming back, they keep on playing. And I had to use that line a lot because we had some tough years, where winning wasn't there on the time. But we were always competitive to the end. I mean, to the last play of every game, we would play hard and we would play fair. There was no scandals, and that was one thing that I always professed, man. That there's going to be tough times, but if you keep on pursuing the goal, you're going to be a winner. In life, and that was our goal. Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for sharing that because that is also that's a great part of a program. Like you said, is that if you keep coming and keep coming, you still be playing. You're going to be part of it. What did you like along the way when you retired? Let's say a coach is listening, they're thinking about retirement. What would you tell them about like once you retire? Like, can you give them some advice?
Well, one thing I always professed is don't take your work home with you. Coaches, we spend enough time on the field, off the field, in the field house, doing our job. And if you're organized, you're going to get it all done. That's one thing I never did. You can ask my wife and my family. I never took my work home with me. I always had time for the family, and that was a big reason that I missed a lot of functions, but at the same time I was able to be at a lot of them because of that. I didn't carry my work home with me, and that's one thing I would stress. Hey, take time to enjoy your life. People will want to work 40, 50 years. They said, hey, my goal eventually at the beginning of life was to retire at 55. So that's the earliest you can retire, with a 30-year, years experience and age and stuff. So I had to figure it out. I already had it mapped up. 30, 55, I was going to step away. What it probably kept me in is if I would have gotten the athletic director position for the district.
Okay.
It opened up in 2010, I believe before my last season, and I was a finalist for that position. But you'll never guess against who? Tom Chavez. Joe Rodriguez was out, and Tom was not the kind of guy who liked that kind of work. I remember him telling me, Coach, I don't like to wear ties. I'm not going to be making speeches. I don't like that kind of position. But that was eventually my goal, to be athletic director. And we made it for a second interview, him and me, finalists, a lot of good people. The superintendent one-on-one, and I felt I did a pretty good job. According to the committee, I got some good rapport, but eventually I knew he was going to get it because Joe Rod was still there.
Yeah,
in the present,
hovering around.
And he got the job. Didn't last very long there. He didn't really like that job. He came back to coaching. If you recall,
back to Rivera, right?
Yeah, back to Rivera. So, and that's when I said, you know what, I didn't get that goal, but I've done everything else I need to. Stepped out.
Coach,
the funny story about that, as soon as we retired, me and my wife, my adult children started having their children. So that's a blessing in disguise because now we had something to do, right? I mean, my daughter, Becky, she's a coach at middle school at Lucio.
Oh, okay.
And she's married to a coach. And I tell him, why didn't you see what your mom went through? I said, how can you? No, but they're good guys. Brian Medina.
They're twins.
He had a job with me there at Lopez at one time. And then Raul Gomez,
Yeah.
My other daughter married him. Another coach. I gave him a job at Lopez too. They already knew the girls before. Okay, it's not because they gave them jobs. But good guys. They're great guys. I mean, and I would, I'm very proud of them too because they do a lot of good for kids, and they're following our footsteps, and I'm glad I had an impact on their lives. Maybe they wanted to pursue what I did. Never regret it, But yeah, we've saved them thousands of dollars. We run a nonprofit daycare agency, okay? Not for profit.
Gotcha.
But they're 11 years old now, the kids.
So
And for the past 11 years, it's just been a blessing for me and my
Awesome.
wife because, still pick them up after school. They still come over, I
or
mean,
mom and dad,
yeah,
yeah, I got
they're great. They're great kids. We have 4 grandkids now, and that's really what's keeping us going.
yeah. They keep us young, keep us young.
Hmm.
Uh, Coach, that 2001 season, and I've never asked the coach this, but I'm going to ask you. That September 11th happened in 2001. Can you share, like, 'cause now I'm going to ask that from now on is, what do you remember about that day, or what do you recall?
Oh, well, we were at a coordinators meeting every Monday morning. We met with the athletic office with Joe Rod. It was a coordinators meeting, all 5 high schools, and he always had the TV on, and then we were ready to start our meeting, and then he just got up and looked, and he got a call, and he had to take off immediately. We saw what happened, So turns out that his son-in-law had a job in the World Trade Center. One of his son-in-laws.
Wow, did not know that.
He missed the train or the subway to get there, so he didn't get there on time. So he wasn't in the building. But he just bolted out, didn't say anything. So we were wondering why. I found out later
Yeah.
that was what happened. And fortunately, he was safe. Well, middle of the week, we got the first game, Thursday night game.
It happened on Tuesday. It happened
Yeah,
on Tuesday and
we're
Thursday.
gonna play La Feria. So they had an athletic directors meeting. I remember on Wednesday, and what are we gonna do? We're gonna go through with it, and everybody says we have to continue. We have to be strong and continue, move on. So we were the first game, uh, Lopez and La Feria, Thursday night, Sam Stadium. We all came out, lined up with all our flags. It was a beautiful ceremony. Everything was good. Robert Valdez, I remember he was the head
Head
coach
coach,
at
yes,
La
yes.
Feria, and it went well. I mean, it was good for us, a relief,
Yes,
to
yes.
get it out of our heads. And everybody ended up playing. I think a few games were canceled, but most of the teams ended up playing. But yeah, it was something that we had to carry over and teach our kids that you can't take life for granted. You've got to live for the day, and just be able to continue your lifestyle. You can't be intimidated. All of those things were incorporated into that week. So it was a good week. We ended up winning the game too, which was very good. Yep, that was
Wow.
that was our season.
I hadn't asked anybody that question. I said,
Yeah,
I wonder what happened on 9/11 because I mean,
yeah.
everybody remembers where they were
It
when
was
that
the first
happened and
game.
stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. You
but
can't.
how the connection of that his son-in-law
Mm-hmm.
was working in the wow.
Yes, sir.
Um, Coach, I know you've touched on a basis little here and there. A first year coach, first year. I know you talked about in the very beginning before we even started the podcast. You talked about they should all start in middle school. I remember you said that, but what would you tell the first year coming out of college and wanting to coach? What would you tell them right now?
I said, okay, number one, your teaching job. You have to take care of your business in the classroom. Say the classroom, whether even if it's PE, you got to do your job because that's going to be a majority of their salary. Number two, you've got to have time, devote time to it. You're going to have to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort. Uh, and of course, you got to be loyal to the head coach or to the principal or to anybody that's above you. You got to be a team player. You got to be, even though you don't always agree, you got to go with their philosophy. You got to make sure that on time, work like hell when you're asked to, and just be a good person. Be a good example, because especially for the youth, they need to look up to you. And a day doesn't go by where I see people in the streets and they remember me. And just as a matter of fact, yesterday I had a breakfast with a family, and they brought one of their friends, a kid I had in 1979. Science class at the Oliveda. Coach, I still remember, man. We dissected frogs. We did all kinds of lab things. He made it fun. That was a long time ago. How do you remember that? He said, but
Think about 1979 is
yeah.
almost 30,
I
40
said,
years ago.
wow, I instilled something into this. He's a science teacher today.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, in Edinburgh. I said, wow, that made me feel good because, and my kids, growing up, they said, man, everybody knows you. And then now it's my grandkids. everywhere we go, people know you. I said, well, they're ex-students and they got families now. But yeah, it's a good profession, and that's one thing I profess. Hey, number one, take care of the classroom. Do what you got to do first, and your teaching business, and then coaching is extra.
Gotcha. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Coach. Coach, on my last question for you, is there anything you would like to share with viewers or anybody out there saying, anything before we wrap it up?
Just going back to the negative publicity that coaches have been getting lately. I mean, there might be one or two bad apples, but coaches, are the best people, as far as setting good examples, and leading. They're the leaders of the campus. I can remember when there was any situation, the principal would call, hey, can you get your coaches out here to help out? Can coaches come out with helping duty? And can you get the coaches to, do the extras? Because they know that the coaches are always going to be reliable, number one, and, trustworthy. But basically, that's it. The coaching is a profession that instills lifetime skills, in people, and that's the important part. And I think we've done that on our side. Hopefully, it continue, with the younger bunch.
Awesome. Well, Coach Montemayor, on that, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your journey of Brownsville and all through your journey of coaching career, and I really appreciate you.
Yep.
And I thank you again very much, Coach.
Well, I thank you. You're doing a good job, man. I think you're going to open a lot of people's eyes, because there's a lot of stories out there, and like I tell you, and a lot of people that need to talk about them. So I share some things that maybe a lot of people haven't heard about, but hey, now they know.
Thank you all for listening to or viewing the One Time Out Left podcast. We really appreciate you tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the One Time Out Left podcast channel on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the latest news and behind-the-scenes content. Find us on X, Instagram, and Facebook. A huge thank you goes out to Rosie Lopez for graciously allowing me to host the podcast at La Casita. Finally, I'd love to get your input. Do you have any questions you'd like me to ask in future episodes? Or is there a specific coach you'd love to see invited on the podcast as a guest? Let us know.